Boston Herald columnist and radio talk show host Howie Carr checking in from Needham, Massachusetts, in the greater Boston area. He doesn't even like that B word Boston as he Skypes in. So Howie, there are conflicting statements on whether or not the threat of ISIS is real here at home. Based on the evidence and what we've seen in terms of past incidents, what do you believe?
Well, I'm going to go with General Martin Dempsey. You know, the press conference you were just talking about, he said that the countries that are most vulnerable to an ISIS attack, JD, are those with open borders, comma, immigration issues. Now, he then said he was referring to the southern flank of NATO, but if any country has open borders, comma, immigration issues, it would be the United States of America, I would think.
So again, just to get this straight, you agree with the Thursday edition of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs as opposed to his Monday morning clarification.
He was afraid of ISIS before he was not afraid of ISIS, as John Kerry might put it.
Well,
yes.
the on-again, off-again curious behavior is not limited to the Pentagon or other places on the banks of the Potomac. Howie, in your column yesterday for the Boston Herald, you talked about the curious conduct of the Boston City Council. I mean, they have voted unanimously to bar the Boston police from holding illegal aliens on civil detainer requests, right, especially in the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing. What is the deal with the Boston City Council?
It's just political correctness run amok, JD. I mean, it's not only the Boston Marathon massacre, it's the 9/11. The first two flights flew out of Logan Airport in Boston in 2001. It's ridiculous that we don't have any more concern here in Boston about this, but it's all about political correctness. And the pitch they made was that the community of illegal aliens are too concerned to call the police because they're afraid they'll be arrested if they're illegal aliens. Now, I don't know of a single instance where that's happened. I assume if that had ever happened, they would have brought someone to be a witness before the Boston City Council. It's just a way of saying that, you know, we're gonna make this community safe for illegal aliens. A couple of years ago, our mayor, JD, said that he didn't think that illegal aliens should be deported just if they were just committing unserious crimes like stealing cars. Now, if you can believe that,
an unserious crime.
Yes. This is the mayor. He'd been mayor for 20 years. He had been driving around in the backseat of a police vehicle. So obviously he didn't know that if you have your car stolen and it's a pretty big crime in my estimation.
Yeah, I don't think there's I don't think that's a quote minor crime right, at all. Some other curious notes coming out of the situation. We were taking a look as you were speaking. We had a screenshot of your column from Boston Herald Online, and the headline on the column was "The Welcome Mat is Out."
Right.
Now you take a look at it, and you were talking about political correctness, but I could not help but note you referred to illegal aliens in your column as, quote, undocumented Democrats. Is it so much political correctness or political advantage those on the left are looking for?
JD, I think it's political advantage. That's all there is to it. Someone has pointed this out before, and I totally agree with it, that if these people that are trying to cross the border from the South were registering as Republicans, Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi would be leading the militias themselves to stop them from crossing the border. I think the Democrats are in need of importing a new underclass, and they're going to do whatever it takes to control American politics for the next generation. And the public safety of the people who are here now be damned, not to mention the economy. I mean, Obama's talking about letting in another 800,000 or 900,000 legal aliens on work permits. Is this really a good time for that when you have 100 million Americans in the prime working years of 19 to 64 are just not working? They're totally out of the workforce. Why are we letting more people into the country? I mean, is it just because they work cheaper, or because we want them to, or because the powers that be want them to work, want them to vote Democratic? I don't know. None of this makes any sense to me, really.
Well, Howie, you had your column in the Boston Herald. Our friend Pat Buchanan appeared on the McLaughlin Group, and he said and he predicts that Mr. Obama will grant amnesty via executive order, or attempt to, probably around Labor Day. And if that happens, Pat Buchanan says that will set the country on fire. Do you think that's what's going to happen?
Labor Day is a week from today, so he's got to move fast. Supposedly, that was one of the reasons why he came back from Martha's Vineyard to Washington last week, was to put the finishing touches on his executive order legalizing 5 or 6 or 10 million, however many there are. I mean, I agree. It's going to be it's really going to be a major issue in the fall. There was a Gallup poll that came out late last week, JD. I'm sure you saw it. It said that among Republican voters, forget Obamacare, it's a distant second to immigration among Republican voters. And I would think it's also very high among independent voters that the Democrats are going to need.
Well, speaking about upcoming elections in the midterm, you will recall, I guess it was about a week ago we got together, and according to the polling in New Hampshire, it looked like Scott Brown was running, over 10 points behind the incumbent, right, Jeanne Shaheen. Now there's a new poll. WMUR Granite State poll basically has challenger Republican Scott Brown statistically tied with Senator Shaheen. Is it the immigration question and the amnesty threat that has been the boost to Scott Brown's polling numbers?
I think so, JD. The people who did this poll, they're pretty reliable. They said that his resurgence, Scott Brown's resurgence, went hand in hand with the cratering of Obama's favorability ratings in the poll. And also the fact is, he's been broadcasting ads saying that tying the amnesty problem, showing the people crossing the border, tying it directly to Jeanne Shaheen, and I think it's had an effect.
And just for the record, Jeanne Shaheen was one of those who voted for the Gang of Eight Senate bill for amnesty. So even with Arizona's senior senator showing up to do a campaign stop in New Hampshire with Scott Brown, that did not keep Brown away from attacking the very bill that Mr. McCain and others supported in the Senate.
Correct. And he's also hitting her very, very hard on the fact that, speaking of letters she signed the letter that was written by Carl Levin, the senior senator from Michigan who's retiring, asking the IRS director to take on the Tea Party. I mean, just a really brazen attempt to chill the First Amendment rights of the Tea Party, and she did it openly, totally above board, and that's not going down well in New Hampshire. There's been 25% of the population now, JD, is Massachusetts residents, but it's still the live free or die state. People don't like the thought of the IRS or any other government agency coming in and telling people how to behave or how to think.
Howie Carr, as always, we really need and really love to hear from you there in Needham, Massachusetts. Thanks so much for your time this Monday morning.
Thank you, JD. Always a pleasure.
All right, you heard Howie's take. What's yours? Why don't you tweet me your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum.